Welcome to ASCAP Screen Time. I'm Mike Todd with ASCAP. We're here to meet the talented composers WAZ and Jamie Jackson, along with the creator and showrunner behind the Apple TV hit series Bad Monkey. This drama series is a dark comedy of a complex mystery which takes place in Miami, Key West, and the Bahamas. Basically, South Florida plays a character itself. Bad Monkey tells the story of Andrew Yancey, played incredibly by Vince Vaughn, who is a one-time detective demoted to restaurant inspector, but gets sucked back into his passion for detective work and can't let go of not solving what appears to be a crime. It's a brilliantly crafted series with wonderful photography, a fun cast of characters, and the music propels the story with a refreshingly original vibe, which plays an integral role in the feel of the series. Bill, Waz, and Jamie, great to meet you all here. The three of you have all worked together before. Your first series was on Cougar Town in 2009 for the ABC Network TV, and that, by the way, was many years before Apple TV existed. How did you all connect and start working together back then?
I'm going to defer to these guys. I'm not used to not being the star of these things. So, Jamie Waz, you guys got to tell the story of how you first got into our lives.
I started teaching their daughter Charlotte Lawrence piano when she was 5. Was it?
So right away, nepotism.
Yeah, 5 or 6. By the way, she's partially responsible for my daughter being covered in tattoos and being a musician. So we still haven't mended.
Yeah, we were good influence. Yeah. Krista was supervising Scrubs at the time. And I got one of Waz's solo EPs in her hands.
Who's Krista?
Krista Miller.
Krista Miller is my wife. She's been the music supervisor on all my shows with Tony Von Purview, and she's also the star of Scrubs, and one of the stars of Scrubs, Cougar Town and Shrinking. But she does that for all my shows, and she and Waz and Jamie probably have a deeper relationship even than I do with these guys.
And so Krista licensed a few of Waz's songs in the final season of Scrubs. And from there, she got us an audition for Cougar Town. And so we submitted and scored to some scenes.
Was there a process in picking like more than one composer? Because usually when you got a showrunner, you got a lot of chefs in the kitchen, everybody wants their guy. How did you land the role? I mean, had you scored a series before?
No. We had never scored a series before.
Okay, so now you're behind the 8 ball.
I sound like an idiot.
But you see, by doing that, you have an original score, you know?
Yeah. That's right. Well, Krista actually called us. We were at South by Southwest playing at an ASCAP showcase at the time. And she said, "We're looking for a composer. Can you do this?" And we said, "Absolutely."
In the style of the music that we've been licensing, so it wasn't hard to make that jump over. And
I knew Waz and Jamie's music too. They both, besides the fact that they can kind of assimilate and play any style, it was definitely just the stuff we had heard, the vibe we were looking for. But I always like to take a moment to say I don't do really any favors. We had 10 people buying hard for that job, and 10 different composers, and they earned it totally on merit. Yeah, this is a good gig. That show lasted 6 years.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I know sometimes it's like everybody just gets a number and then the winner wins by not knowing who it is.
Yeah.
So let's flash forward then to today. Let's talk about Bad Monkey. I'm told it took a few years to produce this 10-episode series. So, Bill, you're running several shows at the same time these days. How did Waz and Jamie end up working on this series with you? Again, flash forward.
Well, I'll tell you, there's a direct line because we did this insane TV show called Undateable, and we did a show called Undateable Live that and by the way, you have to forgive me, Jamie, because I don't know if you were also composing that as well, since I just remember Waz having to be out front in a guitar. But they did the music for that as well. And part of the components of Undateable Live is that Waz had to play the score live, the theme song into the show live on camera, the score live. And
wow.
That show was on NBC for 3 years, and it had a whole bunch of huge bands would sometimes play the intro. We had like the Backstreet Boys and Reunite on that show, and Ed Sheeran, and all these people play live on the show. And they would have to not only do the score to the show, but do it in real time, which was cool. And that kind of guitar-driven rock connected with the fact that Jamie Waz and I had all kind of bonded over Tom Petty, and Cougar Town took place in Florida, and just over kind of, occasional old school Southern rock type music. It was just kind of a natural fit. I wanted to give these guys, I was well aware that they're super duper talented. So I wanted to give them something, meaty and substantial. And I think, to their credit, because I knew I was going to hire them on something, they saw this show as a huge opportunity for them to kind of develop a sound and a style.
Well, that leads me into asking Waz and Jamie. I mean, in this series, there are a lot of elements to tie the different environments together in the music without hitting the audience over the head with it. Even the tone of the guitar sounds like it plays a big part in the shape of the score. Can you talk about the intended tone for the series, that Bill was looking for, and how much of it is character driven? And maybe, like, obviously through the series, the characters evolve. So how did that play out? Did it evolve with the characters as the entire season unfolded?
I think we read the book at first, and while production started up, we had been writing a bunch of songs. We knew that there was the Tom Petty through line, and that there was potentially going to be the Tom Petty soundtrack, which came together.
By the way, I'm plugging it. It's out now. Both Waz and Jamie have great singles on it. Please go get it. We're all huge Tom Petty fans.
I was checking that out, and that's going to be my next question for you.
Good. Back to you. Sorry, Waz.
Yeah, no. So knowing that Tom Petty was going to be a through line in the soundtrack, and because guitar is my main instrument, I thought I should probably start writing some pieces that would be in this realm. And there was some early talk of like classic films like Midnight Run and some like classic cop shows, and we were tapping into some of that and the sounds, and how, not just the sounds, but how the characters interacted, and how we're not hitting any of the humor. That's the thing. Let Vince, his role Yancey, just do his thing and not hit any of that over the head. And so just creating palettes with the guitar that sometimes would sound more like a Tom Petty song, and sometimes like something that doesn't sound like a guitar at all. And that was sort of the development there. And then Jamie.
Yeah, we talked a lot about location, and at first we were really hitting the sound of each location, but we did end up finding a through line. So it didn't pull you out, but there was, a lot of percussion from Andros in Miami, and Florida is actually a great through line for us.
You guys also managed to, look, I don't know if it's intentional, but when you say the music helps create the tone and style of the show, I think one of the things that makes the show cool is that they wrote kind of a modern rock take on a noir score, you know what I mean? And the show has a real vibe kind of because of it right from the start. And I'm not, as astute about music and stuff, but even I recognize the different characters' themes and could hear it, and my brain would be triggered by it. So I thought it was really, really cool and smart way they did things. Everything felt like it was from one family. Sometimes shows like this, people just throw crap at the wall and it sounds kind of disjointed, but beginning to end, it just kind of made sense to me. I thought it was awesome.
There's a very consistent vocabulary in their music for sure. I recently moderated a panel with the music supervisor, Tony Von Purview, last week, and he was talking about how you managed to secure 21 covers of Tom Petty songs for this entire season. That's a big feat. I don't think people in the real world, or who deal in the music business, don't understand how, like, that's a challenge. So kudos to you for pulling that off. Carrying Petty's legacy with the new masters to work for the story too. I mean, that brilliantly done. How did that play out as the season unfolded? And did Waz and Jamie, I think you already alluded to it, ended up creating some of the covers?
Well, I'll start by giving props to Tony, and he and Chris to work together, but Tony worked the lead on this one too. Is we got to know Tom's daughter, and back in Cougar Town, to tie it to Jamie and Waz, not a lot of people knows, but every Cougar Town episode was titled after a Tom Petty song. And so even back then when he was alive, he was rehearsing at Culver Studios, and he let me and the other creator, Kevin Beagle, go over and watch him rehearse.
That's magical.
It only lasted for 3 songs though, because after the 3rd song, Kevin Beagle, who was younger, was like, play Refugee. And Tom Petty goes, it's not a fucking jukebox. You guys, it's time to go. I'm like, literally, I was looking at Kevin. I'm like, why did you speak? What are you doing, dude? We're sitting on a couch having a private Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers concert.
This isn't karaoke.
So dumb. He's like, where do you guys think you are, in a bar? Get out of here. But we use those relationships, and this comes around to complimenting WAZ and Jamie. And on the one hand, it was really cool to, reach out to different, not only current bands, but iconic bands for me, whether it's Eddie Vedder or Weezer or whatever, and get them to do covers. What I needed from WAZ and Jamie, though, because with every other band, it was so hard just to get this to happen. We were essentially going, hey, do your version of the song. And with WAZ and Jamie, it was different. We said, we're looking for a Tom Petty song to cover, and it has to be completely different from the song, more than almost any songs on the soundtrack album. Their 2 covers had to be completely different than the actual material, because it had to suit a very, 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 in both cases, specific scene and tone. And I thought they crushed it. Yeah.
So that's perfect, because I was going to ask WAZ and Jamie, talk a little bit more about that process of how you have to dance between the cover song and your score. I mean, was this part of the spotting process throughout the season?
Well, I think for my cover, I was writing score, and Mary Jane's Last Dance, the melody just popped into my head, and so I started singing it on top, and it, it's a completely different chord structure, but it was fitting to the tone of what we were working on for other scenes. So
it was also super creepy and scary.
Yeah, I was like as twisted as I could possibly be.
That's what the story was telling you, right? I mean,
yeah.
Yeah, I think I remember some of those.
Yeah, and then I think I text the demo to Bill, and Bill was like, "Oh, I know where this is going."
Perfect. So that's like the dynamic of how you were like throwing things back and forth in the process.
Yeah.
Wow. Bill, you had mentioned something about like how we were, I alluded in the beginning, the character-driven sound, and you were even picking up on that. So I think the obvious one is Yancey has such a motor mouth charm and a big heart. Talk about Yancey's theme in the score, which I'm a fan of.
Look, by the way,
was that you, WAZ?
Yeah, you're asking because I'd say you're asking the wrong guy. Because for me, I just go like up in editing. I'll have the sound mixer, and I go, oh, we need some heavy score, and you need blah blah, and it'll go, oh, it's gonna be the Dragon Queen's theme, because it's gonna bridge from here to her walking across, and I'd be like, she's got a theme. It was very exciting for me.
That's fun
to watch. But these guys are the ones that came up with all that stuff. But it matched. Not only did each individual character's thing matched, but I find the theme song itself, and usually I do. My shows are known for kind of having pop band theme songs with lyrics and designed in the old days to be singles, essentially. Like even Spin City's theme was written by the Spin Doctors,
right. I remember
that. And Scrubs, I'm No Superman, and Postal Service does Shrinking. And so this is the first show I've ever done that had an instrumental kind of heavy theme song. And I felt like it set the tone even in the credits, and I don't even know if you guys had the credit sequence before you did it. But it matches so well, and you kind of, so right when you see the credits in the opening pilot, you get the vibe of the show. I just think these guys crushed it.
Talk about the teamwork involved with the production and how the music fits in with all of the other moving parts. Because, I mean, you got, like, being a showrunner, I think people out, in the real world don't really know all of these moving parts, and like how you're like a puppet master,
Yeah, but look, I think I'm able to do a bunch of, you're nice enough to say that I'm running a bunch of shows, but the truth is you can only do that if you empower super talented people and trust them. And from, Jamie and WAZ will tell you, in our shows, the post department, the sound mixer, the composers. We all kind of work hand in hand and communicate. But yeah, you'll be watching. I'll be watching a cut very, very early on that either has no music or temp music in it, and that what we end up talking to each other about is tone and emotion, and what scenes need music to carry us the whole way through, and where we need to indicate what we want people to feel as opposed to just have background and stuff. But a show is working as a showrunner, for me anyways. I'm not saying other people do it wrong. Some people like to micromanage when you don't have to tell people that stuff, where it comes to you and it gets placed in. And worst case, these guys would be better to speak to it, but I wouldn't say more than once or twice a show would we ever go back to you and say, hey, this needs to be different, or we need this to be longer or shorter, or we think that this flavor here is wrong. It is rare. And someone's nailing a show when, even if they write a piece of score for a section that doesn't work, that it's so of the family that you end up placing it and putting it in a different episode
somewhere else. Yeah. No, that's cool. I think now might be a good time to dive into how this main title is such a perfect beachy mystery theme for the story. And, and the other thing too, I mean, it has so many visual clues in the way it's shot. So I think this would be a good time. Why don't we roll the clip and then we'll talk about it on the other side.
Whoa, that was amazing.
Yeah, no, that was. I mean, the theme does such a fantastic job of setting the tone for the show. So here's my question. Was the music written to the storyline with the visuals cut to the music, or the other way around?
It was written, we did not have the visuals yet. It was just a placeholder pretty early on. I think we had just been looking at this temp, placeholder and temp music for quite some time, and just, we're ready to fill it with something that we thought could help set the tone as we were working on the show. And so, we sent Bill a demo of just kind of a raucous idea. And from there, it slowly evolved. And I think they actually cut the picture to our demo.
Yeah, we did it backwards.
Yeah.
We should give Kip some props, because he always, he's had Kip Krogers does all my posts on all my shows. And, he was working with a company that had a really kind of, they have to come pitch it with storyboards and stuff, cool pulpy idea about what the credits would look like. And then we put a bunch of Easter eggs in there, including, we even hid the paperback of what the next season's about in there next to a beach chair. There's one of Carl's next book, the sequel to this is. Yeah, you got to look close. It's cool.
So there is a season 2.
Yeah. But I mean, I got to wait for it to be official. But
little official green light on that. So
not yet, not yet. But I'm very excited. But the point is, it usually goes the other direction, which is you put together this stuff and then people try out pieces of music. But we all kind of loved the vibe so much, ended up, even though we had kind of a visual pitch, but cutting it to the beat of what they had already composed.
Well, I mean, Jamie and WAZ, this is a perfect time to talk about how you crafted that then. I mean, what was the inspiration behind the instrumentation to set that tone that everybody kind of agreed with?
Well, there was an element like we wanted a bit of a taunting element too, because, you know, Yancey can't let go. And so there was a fun sound that we were tossing around. I don't play guitar, but I stole Waz's guitar from his studio and had a pink highlighter and was just kind of sliding around on the guitar, just as like that taunting, you know, voice of not letting go in Yancey's head a bit. And yeah, from there we just kind of pulled in, you know, a bit of the island and Florida percussion with like a ripping guitar line and just kind of
Only a musician could
meshed
say
it all
ripping.
together.
Ripping, yeah.
I wish I could pull off ripping in a normal sentence. It's very cool.
You even had strings. Are those live like strings?
Yeah, so once the you know, once the demo landed, then we went in and had a full string section play on top.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As from a composer's point of view, anybody watching that does this, I think the process of the theme was really cool because Jamie and I have separate studios at the house, and I walked in her studio one day and she's like, I have this idea, and we were still working out a lot of the sounds for the show in general. And I think it was one of those moments where she played me the idea, which is the theme, in a, you know, obviously in a raw state. And I just remember thinking, this is the coolest thing I've heard so far. And this is a theme. This is a theme. Nobody knows it yet, but when they hear it, they'll know it, and they'll know it. And it was almost like a leap of faith because it was definitely darker and more, I think, like Bill said, more noir than maybe we were going or thinking that we were going to go. And I just remember, I think my biggest contribution was just saying, whatever you do, number one, save this, and two, please, let's finish this. This needs to go on. And it's like one of those moments where it's not necessarily, you have to take the leap of faith and understand that not every idea you have is gonna, people might not even agree with it at first. Or you may not think that they're going to agree with it. And we're like, this is different than what we've been sending, but I think it's worth it. And I think this is the theme. And it ended up working out really well. And it's one of those moments where, you know, and yeah, again, she's in there with like a 12-string electric and a highlighter playing it like upside down. And she's like, check this out. And it was such a cool moment, you know, and it's fantastic. And then it turned into the theme.
I'm gonna steal that story and make it about me somehow.
Awesome.
The pink highlighter.
Well, it's funny because I mean, yeah, a lot of those elements play out throughout the sound of the show. So it does set the tone. It's great. Rhythm, everything. So how about this? This is something I noticed when binge watching amazing shows like this. Part of the magic and the new trend these days is how to set up the story so you've got to keep going and clicking through into the next episode. So did that affect any creative decisions for your end title sequence at in each episode?
Not for me. I'm only answering because one of the cool things about Apple is it's still week-to-week release. Do
Okay,
you know what I mean?
yeah.
And so I really told these guys, you know, I kind of view it as episodic television. And otherwise, I probably would be hesitant to do, you know, kind of the cliffhanger vibe we did on this show. Because if people are just vomiting, binging, you know, it'll just roll right into the next one. But I will say that the music on this show holds up without ever feeling repetitive. And I say that as someone, look, I did Scrubs for 900 years, and I can still tell you anytime there's an emotional moment, it goes ba 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 ba, you know, and yeah, it's or Spin City, now. That was in between every scene. And
that's beating you over the head with it.
Yeah, but I grew up in in multi-camera comedies with a live audience where you did stings to hit jokes and you did plink 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 staccato to let people know comedy was coming and stuff. And so to me, the coolest thing about Waz and Jamie's work is it just feels like a vibe. and I'd probably listen to it anyway. Even if
Right.
it wasn't
Yeah. Well,
during a show.
I'm excited for the soundtrack on that,
Yeah.
Are there any other like final comments you might want to share, or little stories or nuggets that you discovered along the way in the process of working together?
I just always look. I think that the thing that you sometimes forget, and we've been doing this with we have some great composing teams. Or this dude Tom Howe and Jamie and Waz are kind of our principal composers across different shows, and I think what happens to showrunners sometimes, because we live in our own little world, is that you forget that they aren't just, it's like a writer performer. Okay, you forget sometimes that some of the writers on our show are really skilled comedians and actors and do other things. And for me, I always knew Jamie and Waz were great composers, but you sometimes then, because that's what they do for you, forget that they're amazing artists, And so my biggest takeaway for me was how cool it was to do an actual soundtrack album and have those two, who have both been in countless bands of other people and their own and stuff, and just as a reminder that they could be, we're lucky to have people write music for the show that could be out just performing in clubs and venues and stuff. And I'm sure, hopefully, I wanted to ask them if it gave them the itch back to do both again, because I think it's hard to do more than one thing. But I mean, once you're recording singles and shit, don't you want to get back out and be playing in front of people again?
Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
And we're working on albums now, so.
And maybe this can help launch some of that, or at least build another fan base that, to discover your music.
Well, just by saying out loud, I own a huge chunk of it now. They don't know that. It's just kind of how it generally works for new professionals. Yeah.
But hopefully we'll be too busy with season 2 to do that. So.
Yeah, I would think so. By the way, you guys got to decide if it's going to sound the exact same. The theme has to be the same, but I mean, the series, you guys got to read the book. The series has another vibe.
It's totally different. Yeah.
So it takes on another turn, and who knows? But it's still a continued other mystery.
The book, if it's not, it's, people can see it. They look very closely at the opening credits. Next to the beach chair is a Carl Hiaasen book called Razor Girl, and it is
Razor Girl, and it is the sequel to Bad Monkey. This is one of his only books that he wrote a sequel to, and that's why it's in the opening credits. Good stuff. Well, man, thank you for this amazing opportunity to, let us take a peek behind the curtain for this fun hit series. You've built such an incredibly successful collaboration. If you haven't seen this series yet, I highly recommend it. Thank you, Waz, Jamie, and Bill, so much for sharing your time and expertise. See you next time on ASCAP Screen Time.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.